Anytime the mainstream media or the establishment does something in reference to the history or whatever it is, just like your history books, it has to be rewritten in order to benefit the establishment as a whole. So Netflix is another version of your history books in the public education system. It's the new version of that. And since people are so, the velocity of thought and consciousness and research is moving so fast, they have to concentrate a lot of this information and this mind control into little series, little episodes, little movies, little cartoons, little things. And all of that stuff is on Netflix now. All of it is on your on-demand, your Hulu, your Amazon. You can see how they're locking together Amazon with Whole Foods. This is the new world order, or it's just the extension of the old world order. It was never, see, people dramatize the new world order as if it's new. Just the very nature of that, like the term conspiracy theory was invented by the CIA to distract people from questioning the JFK assassination. Well, the term New Age was used as coined to distract you from how deep these programs go, how deep the old age goes. And the new age was also invented to make you think like something good is happening, but it's good only on a shallow layer. It's like that truth that is served with poison. Ultimately, that poison is going to win out because you're not thinking for yourself. You're only regurgitating what the system is telling you to do. The Soviet Union collapses and the world leaders attempt to shape a new world order. This is the name of that episode. The Soviet Union. So this is why they play Russia in your face all the time, because they're playing themselves out to be the savior. They're playing themselves out to be the religious savior, the political savior, the human savior, the environmental savior, the capitalist, democratic savior. All of these are designed like that, and they're using these terms. They're like formally putting it into your reality, because now they got people dumbed down enough to be like, well, it's time for a new world order. We should have a new world order. And you guys are about that old racist stuff. If you're talking about not going along with integration and the new world order, we need to fix this stuff. They got enough people now. And people are dumbed down enough and distracted enough. And like I said in the last video that's linked in this description box, once they have consumed your ability to think for yourself, like a parasite consuming your reality, the subjects don't matter anymore, because now they can control, or it can control, how you think. And then you don't even know what's going on, let alone why you're thinking about what's going on, let alone thinking about how what's going on is going on. So you're in this space of limbo on purpose. So now that you're deep into that limbo space with the manipulation through the food, the water, the social media, the education system, so on and so forth, history, now that you've been dumbed down and beaten down, and your fight has been destroyed so much, now they can start going harder into like what they're trying to do. So this is why on an actual, with all the information that's out there about the New World Order, this is why on mainstream media, the 90s television show on Netflix can name one of their episodes The New World Order and design it to say, well, the Soviet Union are the bad guys and we're the good guys. So, and you know who else is another good guy? Nelson Mandela. He's another good guy. And then they'll go into like Saddam Hussein as the bad guy. So this is all the 9/11 propaganda, the mainstream propaganda across the board. So episode 5 is the New World Order, and they only focus on, they're literally saying, we brought about this New World Order when we took out Saddam Hussein. They're owning 9/11 now. Don't be surprised if they try to say, if they like try to outwardly own 9/11 and say, this is the only way we're gonna be able to go to war. There's probably gonna be some people that are gonna say that. There's probably gonna be some people that have already said that, because this is what's on Netflix. They're literally saying the New World Order is a good thing. Look, we defeated the Soviet Union. We defeated Saddam Hussein. We're on the team with Nelson Mandela and John Lennon. Concentrated mind control. That's what these are. And it's dressed up in like a flashy presentable, likable sort of superhero mentality. And then the last episode is episode 8, which I still haven't seen yet, called Can We All Get Along? And it's got a picture of Rudy Giuliani on there. The description is racial issues erupt across the country. The police beating of Rodney King against the LA riots. The O.J. Simpson trial captivates the nation. So that's another thing. They keep playing this whole like demonizing, even, and you'll hear it in this first episode when they talk about Bill Cosby. They can't do anything without demonizing you in some kind of way. The same way they can't make a movie without killing off the black man as the first casualty. So they also have to psychologically kill any kind of forward anything that represents anything positive outside of the white supremacist system is a threat. So they have to constantly trigger. This is why comedians and on late night talk show hosts are constantly attacking Bill Cosby, but they won't attack any of the slew of other pedophiles that are out there, known pedophiles that are out there in Hollywood, in the media, in politics, in the churches. Like they won't go anywhere near that, but they will attack somebody like Bill Cosby and O.J. Simpson on and on and on in all of these, in everything, in every single layer. That is a psychological mind control program. And you can see that. So for people who are still saying that we need to stop talking about racism, well, you need to tell me how you are like justifying that the shit that's being promoted to your kids on Netflix like this, how do you justify that this is okay? What are you going to do about that? Like this is one of the weapons against you. And see, a lot of the people aren't physically getting hit by these billy clubs. Like metaphorically, they're not getting hit by this information because they don't live like this. So this is why people can go so deep into the space of saying, well, racism doesn't matter and race issues don't matter and this doesn't matter. You know, and then take it a step even further and say, you're divisive because we're trying to deal with something that they can't even fucking comprehend. Like, where do you get off? Like if there was an assembly right now of all the people across the world and you had representatives from each ethnicity, each culture around the world, you will still have so-called white people standing up trying to own the microphone saying that their perspectives of reality are the only things that matter and trying to downplay your perspectives. And when in reality, they should be sitting their asses down and listening to everybody else talking about what the fuck has happened over these last few centuries as a result of their people. But they're so entitled, so ignorant, so arrogant with their privilege and their supremacist mentality that they will still stand up in front of the world as if their word is the only thing that matters. This is what Netflix represents. And this is what individuals that are on YouTube and anywhere else calling themselves truthers and all that other stuff who are telling you to avoid this information and telling you what to focus on, that's what they represent. And not many people are going to challenge those individuals because they don't want to be seen as divisive. They don't want to be labeled as this or that. They want their videos to be viewed. They need it to be shared. So they got to downplay the thumbnails. They got to downplay the titles. They got to downplay the subjects, or they got to lighten it up or integrate it. Given the benefit of the doubt, these people care. The extreme benefit of the doubt. Some people care. They genuinely care about what's going on. They're trying to help. I understand that. At the same time, I also understand how that kind of approach is dangerous. And from my perspective, is the most dangerous thing out there, because those individuals are the ones who are going to usher you in to the next mind control program underneath all this love and light, new age perspective bullshit about, oh, we should just be integrated. Like the individual said on the video before last about integration. Integration is not going to fix the ways of the world. You can integrate everything today. Nothing is going to change. So now what? It's your responsibility to go deeper into what's going on. and really figure it out rather than just guessing. See, a lot of so-called white people are just guessing with their high hopes and their good intentions. They think that's good enough. It's not good enough. You have to do double work because you are still benefiting from this destructive ass program. Double work, and at the same time, realize when it's time to shut the fuck up. Executive producer Tom Hanks. So they got the co-signer on here like they do with everything else. They get somebody to like co-sign against it or co-sign with it so it'll be more relatable and more believable to you. So as long as you have Tom Hanks co-signing on anything, then you're going to believe it. It's kind of like how when Eminem came out and they mentioned him in here, they had Dr. Dre co-signing on Eminem. Eminem would not have been as successful as he was if he wasn't at first co-signed by Dr. Dre. So this is why they use individuals like Tom Hanks in certain movies like Apollo 13, Gosling in the new movie, the New Moon movie. So they pulled your heartstrings with the television in order to get more control over you and more money, to keep you interested in something, to make you think it's real, to make you think and believe in it, and to actually condition you to think and act like the television. So they're saying that they're talking about sexism and racism, but they're only talking about it to a certain degree. So on the, they're just showing images of like The Simpsons right now and how The Simpsons represents like the family and how it was different. It's different than like the Cosby Show. It actually pushed the limits a little bit more. So they're using The Simpsons as like an example of how television became more real. So they use people like David Lynch. They use people like Tom Hanks. They use cartoons. They use whatever it is that's going to make you believe what's going on, or trying to condition you to think that evolution, the evolution of television, just happened on its own. That's the point of this. They're saying, yeah, first it was The Simpsons, then it went into Twin Peaks, then it went into Northern Exposure, and then now they're trying to tell you how like later on it goes into how like regular television evolved into cable television where it got all sexy and all this other shit, and then as if it was a mistake, as if it was just something that happened. No, this was an orchestrated design. So they're talking about all these cop shows, cop rock, and they're going to tell you like, oh, this was just for your entertainment. But they're not going to tell you that this was for your control. They're not going to tell you that this was for your, like all these cop shows, all these justice shows. This is why they sprinkle in a few brown people, black and brown people every now and again in order to distract from what the hell it is. So now they're going into rated R. These are transitions. People who are like in film and productions, they know how this works, or screenwriters or book writers or whatever. They know how this stuff works. Now they're talking about NYPD Blue, and they're gonna downplay how some of these characters are like racist, and they're just like, and they're just using it for like entertainment value. And now they're talking about how it moved into like being sexy. And when they're talking about sex on television, they're making themselves out to be the authority of what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. So they're making themselves out to be the writers of the definitions of what is right and wrong. This is a mechanism of white supremacy, of colonialism, of the entire Western establishment. This is at the origin, and then they're saying like, oh, like this character, they're trying to humanize this poison. It's like, yeah, these are just regular people, just like you. He's violent. He's a real person. But he's racist. Like these, they're making racism acceptable. They're just playing it off. The same way when cops approach a so-called white person, they act a certain way. When cops approach a so-called black person, they act a certain way. So when they portray certain characters on here, they can't portray black people the way in a white character like this. They can't do that because it won't be welcomed. But they can do it with these characters. In fact, they use our characters to downplay and like to demonize and to do something else. But they got free reign to do whatever with their characters. As they're thinking for you, they're evolving you into their de-evolution program and telling you that it's evolution, but you're actually being evolved in a de-evolution program. This is all used to make you believe that this system is benevolent. So they utilize the LGBT movement. They utilize Black Lives Matter. They utilize the feminism movement. They utilize these actors and actresses in sports, athletes and politicians to make you believe in the system. They don't give a shit about these individuals. They only care about the system. This is a business. This is a business of mind control. And you can see that all this is stress inducing. All of this is very is destructive. So they're talking about homicide. They got you living pretty much every day in a hospital. You're watching TV shows like ER, and they're telling you, oh, this is not stressful. This is an action television show. You seeing people sick all the time. What does that do to the people? It makes people sick and worried all the time. And then they actually start to manifest these sicknesses and diseases because it's constantly being portrayed in their reality every single day. Polls represent what? Nothing. The same way voting represents what? Nothing. It represents whatever they want to tell you to think it represents. Like they tell you that this governor or this state representative lost by a 0.5% in one state, and then they just force you to think like, oh, see, you could have voted. You could have got this person in office. You have to understand the intelligence behind this shit. It's not all about the feelings. See, this is why people say that this is actually a matriarchal system, because they're playing your heartstrings, they're playing your emotions, they're playing your feminine energies, your masculine and feminine energies, but portraying it from a masculine perspective. And you don't even have any relationship with your balances of reality, so you don't know what the hell is going on. When they're playing your emotions like this, they're playing your emotions for a particular reason. Didn't you feel so good when you were watching this? Now it's like, oh, now you feel so bad that it's gone. So now you want it. You need it. Like, you need this establishment. It's part because it's deeply ingrained in your emotional body, your intellectual body, your spiritual body, your physical body. You want to look like certain people. You want to dress like certain people. But when they humanize it, they take the perspective of mind control out of your consciousness. You don't see it because you are being entertained. And now they're talking about the evolution after Cheers, where Kelsey Grammer moved into Frasier now, and they're going to explain Frasier as this highly intellectual, like it was for a smarter type of audience. This is another version of they're talking about evolution. And it's all comedy, it's all laughter, it's all like, oh, this is so light and fluffy and great. But all this is a design. All this is a design to distract you from Christopher Columbus, from colonialism, from genocide, from massacres, from the Trail of Tears, from the original people, not only in the Americas, but across the earth. Every single one of these episodes, every single design is designed to distract you from that. And people don't realize how important that is to acknowledge that and recognize that that's happening. And since they don't want to do that, they tell you that you're being divisive because you're bringing up this information. Something is wrong with you because you're talking about these mind control programs. And they're saying, no, the mind control program is using race to control you and to create division amongst people. So why are you talking about race? You're doing the same thing the system is doing. You're divisive. That's these less than adolescent ass mentality people. These are like elementary school people, like kindergarten mentalities at best. They're just like, oh, I don't know what to think, but this makes me feel a certain way. So I'm just going to, say this and demonize them this way and do this and da-da-da. And they'll just, next thing you know, you're in another TV show. This one's on Third Rock from the Sun now. All the mind control that goes in from Third Rock from the Sun, the same thing with the Big Bang TV show. Now they're talking about intelligence. So it's the evolution from just hanging out at the bar to going into the intelligent conversations in Frasier to the space age intelligent conversations on Third Rock from the Sun to the show Mad About You now, which is relationships. They just showed a pentagram going in with the NBC thing now. Now they're going into Full House, anchors it all in, forgets about all that stuff, tunes it into a family, and now you're just locked into a kid eating cake. And it's so cute. Oh, ha ha ha, laugh track. Ha 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 ha. And now Steve Urkel. Oh, we're not just talking about white people. We had some black people sprinkled in there, black TV shows. Right back to white America. Everybody loves Raymond. It was just a little clip of Steve Urkel. This is an algorithm. This is an alchemy. This is an actual weapon used against the people. And you got so-called truthers out there talking about, no, you're just being divisive. No, you're being ignorant. Extremely ignorant. Now they're talking about how much time they spent on O.J. Simpson. They made a TV show out of O.J. Simpson. On and on and on and on. All the shit that they could be focused on all the other people that are fucked up in Hollywood and the media and the church and the politics and all that other stuff. How many things were made for Bill Cosby and O.J. Simpson and anybody else out there who was not white and was either did something wrong or was accused of doing something wrong or was in and around doing something wrong? They will glorify the shit out of that in order to make themselves out to look good. The same way the system demonizes like Russia and all these other places out there, they doing it to make themselves look a certain way. All these demon ass people out here that they are just like painting as fucking superheroes and like great people like Rupert Murdoch. They basically made like CNN, like I said, this ain't like a surprise, but the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, this is to downplay, to water down how fucked up everything is. They're trying to make it seem like they're benevolent, like they give a shit. But it's the furthest from the truth. This is the deepest of the deepest mind control programs. But since it's dressed in a Friends TV show, since it's dressed in The Simpsons, since it's dressed in the Family Guy TV shows and so on and so forth, you're not gonna question anything. Why? Because either you're laughing or don't give a shit or too busy, distracted, whatever it is. Next thing you know, they're on to the next TV show or distraction. Like it's okay because it's in the mafia, but if you do it on the streets, in East Oakland or something like that, then you're a delinquent. But it's like a TV show. They can kill people like that. Like he just strangled somebody. If that was a black man who strangled a white man like that, it'd be a totally different atmosphere. But if Tony Soprano does it, it's okay. The 90s TV show is the American dream in a TV show. So they were like, we need to sell the 90s. Sell the 90s from the perspective of the American dream. Do it. Boom. Here it is. So they use music. They use musicians. They use comedians. They use actors. They use the news. They use the so-called evolution of regular television and cable. They did want to talk about John Lennon, Alanis Morissette, NWA, Dr. Dre, Suge Knight. Of course, they're going to tell their story of Eazy-E and Suge Knight and Dr. Dre and Pac and all that shit. They're going to show the violent side of that, but they're going to show the like Elton John and shit, and they're going to show, what's that other dude's name? I don't know if it's Elton John. I've been mixing him up with the country dude. But they sure enough did a spot on Suge Knight in there. Then they go into Puff Daddy and how he changed from giving it like conscious rap to just dance party rap. And everything was just about dancing. So he hooked in like the old schools and the new schools. So it wasn't the white people who did it. It was them. Your people did it. Puff Daddy did it. He's the one who was the bad guy in the mainstream media. Then they go in to talk about Eminem. Now they got you in with television and cartoons and music. Now they're going to hook your ass with mind control programs of politics. And the first thing they do is get the one that you're going to think about that was in the 90s that you can relate to, that was cool. It was like a good upkick for the American dream. Bill Clinton came and saved the day against, the New World Order guy, George Bush.
Before granting you entry to the United States, we have a few simple questions. It's just a formality.
Okay.
I'm actually Irish myself.
False.
No, I hadn't started.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Question 1. The United States is governed by two major parties. Can you name them?
The gun lobby and big tobacco.
What is the name of America's national holiday?
Black Friday.
In what state is the city of Chicago?
State of violence.
What is America's most dominant race?
The 100-meter butterfly.
Quick fire round. Finish these sentences. America is the greatest something in the world.
Weapons exporter.
Martin Luther King had a
Tough time getting equal rights.
Finally, the United States was founded in
Dubious circumstances surrounding land claims from indigenous people.
Welcome to America.
All right.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
That is also the reason that American Negro history is not taught. You were, at one time, and are still considered to be by many segments of this population, a source of cheap labor. If I am the white man and I have you in a certain place and I need you there, then it is important for me not to let you have any suspicion that you don't belong in that place.
Well, William, the African American community is deeply divided due to the tagline, African Americans ain't Africans, which can be found in numerous places on the web. Now, it should be obvious as to why it's causing a commotion, but if it escapes you, let me explain. The current American education states African Americans were brought to America as slaves from Africa, which is simply not true. They are American indigenous, not descendants of Africans. As they say, the truth is stranger than fiction. Although this fact isn't spoken of openly, it's not a secret. However, with programming such as Roots, 12 Years a Slave, The African American Story, and The Book of Negroes, is it any wonder why so many African Americans are confused? We won't address all the misleading DNA tests being provided to connect African Americans to Africa.
The Aborigines were deemed to be subhuman, little more than animals, which was to justify not only the theft of their land, but their extermination. An edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, still in circulation when I was at school, described them as only an animal of prey, more ferocious than the leopard or the hyena. He devours his own species. So they were hunted and raped and massacred. And few doubted at the time that genocide was official policy. A government report in the 1850s spoke of the success of poisoning Aborigines, 100 of them laid out at a time. But until quite recently, little of this was even acknowledged. In Tasmania, the Aborigines were said to have died out. In fact, they were hunted along with kangaroos and almost wiped out. In New South Wales, by 1845, the tribe who had watched Captain Cook sail here into Botany Bay was reduced to 3 women and a man.
But my grandfather, before he died, told me of the things they would do. He said he would go down, his grandfather said they would go down and they would take babies with them. I said, what do you mean babies? He says, well, let me tell you. He said the slaves who had babies, they would steal the babies during the course of the day, sometimes when the mothers weren't washing. I said, what do you mean babies? I said, you mean babies like 5 or 6 years old? He says, no. These babies, some would be infants, some would be a year old. He said some would be toddlers. He said they would grab these children and take them down to the swamp and leave them in pens like little chicken coops.
In Victoria, an Aborigine called old Mr. Burt recalled this story told by his mother.
They buried our babies with only their heads above the ground. All in a row they were. Then they had a test to see who could kick the babies' heads off the furthest. One man clobbered a baby's head off from horseback. They then spent most of the day raping the women. Most of them were then tortured to death by sticking sharp things like spears up their vaginas until they died. They tied the men's hands behind their backs, then cut off their penis and testicles, and watched them run around screaming until they died.
We have another call waiting. Hello.
Could I?
Hello. Go ahead. What's your question, please?
My question concerns, you blame it on the white man on how we came over and take your land. I don't understand when the Japanese are coming over and they're buying it, and that's okay. I don't see what this is about the Howleys coming over. You come over to our country and buy up our land too. It works both ways. I don't see how you can have this rallies and everything against the white man. This is America,
Let me just say something to this call. This is not America. This is Polynesia. Our country was stolen. That's one of your problems. You're ignorant, woefully ignorant. I am very active against Japanese ownership of our land. I have testified repeatedly at various commissions and at the legislature in opposition to any foreigner owning Hawaiian land. But you, caller, need to learn about Hawaiian history and about where you are. And that attitude that you have is the same attitude that Joey Carter has. You think you are in America. You are not in America. You are in a colony that is in Polynesia that was forcibly taken, just as, I might add, all of Eastern Europe was forcibly taken by the Soviet Union, which Americans think is a very, very bad place. The bad, bad Soviet Union. Well, the bad, bad United States of America took Puerto Rico, it took Alaska, it stole Indian land, it took Hawaii, it took Guam, it took Micronesia, Palau, and you had better learn that history because you are the recipient of an imperialist tradition.
Yes, when people do that, they are reacting to something is beginning to crack. People hoard all this because they don't have anything else, but they don't really believe in it, and they kill to get it. But that proves the moral bankruptcy, which translates itself into the actual bankruptcy of the world in which we live. We have yet to understand that if I am starving, you are in danger. When people think that my danger makes them safe, they're in trouble. It is clear to me, it's clear to many, that what we call the political vocabulary of this age cannot serve the needs of this age. That we will have to find a way to get beyond our crippling habits. This is not the 19th century. Queen Victoria is long, long dead, and Europe is no longer the center of the world.